I tell you, one of the things I always enjoy about spring football is that run out of the tunnel from the locker room for Coach Funk to begin practice. Coach Funk, the tight ends coach, joins us here as we continue our conversations and catch up with each position for Indiana State football. Coach Funk, number one, you doing all right? Everybody safe and sound?
Everyone's safe and sound. It's definitely a crazy, unprecedented time, but we're hanging in there. We're staying positive, keeping the right mental outlook on everything, which is all you can do. And we're all safe over here. You safe over there? You doing all right?
Well, doing what we can. So
Yep.
Trying to stay as safe and healthy as, all of us are in this boat together, as we talk about from time to time. I know we did in your position group last week, but Tyler, one of the things that you mentioned, I know it's been a lot going on in your off season, as we can tell with some photos there behind you too. I'm sure quarantine mode, yes, it's been tough without football, but also I know with all of us, I think it's helped us personally in some way, despite the one thing that kind of holds us all together being taken away right now to an extent.
Yeah, it's crazy because, like you said, I'd killed to be back with our team, with my players and those guys getting ready for or finishing up spring ball. We would be right now. But, there's a lot of positives that were taken away from this. Like you mentioned already, I've had time to spend more time with my family, my fiance at home, and counting that as a blessing and getting a chance to watch a lot of film. And obviously, from a recruiting standpoint, recruiting definitely does not stop. Regardless of what's happening outside in the outside world. So between, spending time with family and trying to use creativity to do some things in the recruiting world, it's been very, very busy, very, very busy in the Funk household for sure.
Of course, you're on the other side of this. Normally, you're in my seat conducting some interviews throughout the spring. What has that been like just for you in terms of being able to tell the stories or help tell the stories of what makes this program great in so many different aspects, from Brooke Porter with academics to Dave McManus in the strength and conditioning room to Kellen Norris. There's so many other people that I know you've been able to talk to too, but just being able to be in that seat, because those are positions that just don't always get the publicity that they deserve.
No question. You said it best. In one word, it's been unbelievable. I mean, having the opportunity, I've been here over 3 years now. And so I've had a chance to interact with all these great people on a daily basis for a while now, but it never gets old getting a chance to speak with those major parts of our football program about a myriad of different things that make this place so special. So I knew, and anyone who knows me, I'm antsy. If I'm not doing something, I'm looking for something to do. So having the opportunity to interview and talk with these parts of our football program has been a really, really cool experience. And obviously I'm trying to do my best Luke Martin impression. So I don't know how I'm doing, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. I think we all are. And going back to the previous thing we talked about, there is a lot of adversity and negative stuff out there right now. And the only thing we can do is have a positive outlook. And what's more positive than talking about the amazing things that Indiana State football and the football program have to offer?
One of those aspects, Tyler, I think it was during our signing day coverages when we had this conversation, and I posed a question to you of something along the lines of how more excited are you now about Indiana State football when you've seen all those things improve during your time here? And your answer to me really caught me, because you said, my excitement isn't more higher than it was day one. I've always had that. I've always been optimistic about where this program can be. Why has that always just been, I think, the way you're wired and the way you are, but also why that is also such a genuine statement? Yes, there's continued improvements, and you guys as a coaching staff, you as recruiting coordinator, are constantly thinking of ways you can get better, but it's not that you are not just as excited about Indiana State football today as you were yesterday. Well,
the easiest way to answer that is that when great things happen as a part, within this program, it doesn't surprise me, I guess is one way to put it. This place is so special, and you have so many people around it doing whatever they can on a daily basis to improve or change things for a better around the program and add to it, that, when something great happens with, more graphics or something for our players to help benefit their life or the coaching staff or whatever, my first thought is, yeah, why wouldn't that happen? We have the right people around us to help this program, in so many different ways that it just doesn't surprise me. And overall, I guess, I grew up with the philosophy, my father taught me that it's really easy in this world to have the negative things attack you and to let it affect you. But it's really difficult to be positive and to keep a positive outlook and have that type of mentality throughout everything. But, I've trained, I've been trained to always look at the better side of things rather than the negative, because, it makes everything better around you. It makes your mental state better, and the people around you want to be better when you have that mental state. So it's just ingrained in my DNA, and you can thank my parents for that, I guess you could say.
Let's get into your position group. Last year, I think it was something along the lines, I should have looked the stat up before this interview, but I think Henry Woodcock made a catch against South Dakota, and I think that was only maybe the second catch by a tight end in a game throughout the first 4 to 5 weeks of the season. But look, you guys are the Mules. There's much more than just getting receiving yards and receptions to that, unlike maybe a couple of years ago, your first year with Jaquette McClendon, where Jack was such a huge part of the offense and was a number one target. How do you feel last year the group evolved? Maybe necessarily the stat sheet early on didn't necessarily maybe look that way in terms of the numbers that you truly see from a tight end's perspective. But as we got on throughout the year last year, Matei Thomas grew. So many other guys came into that Mule stable and really performed.
No question. And, the best way I can explain that, and I don't want to speak for my position group, but I know what they would say. The way they approach the game and the way they approach the position is selflessness, and obviously, we would love to be, the lead stat, tight end in the conference, and we will be at one point for sure. But, those guys are in every single play and doing the grunt work on a lot of plays, and they're not always seen. But you know what? They'd be the first ones to say, that's fine. We'll grind in silence. We'll put the offense on our back in our own personal way, and we'll thrive within that. And, when we do have an opportunity to make a big play, a big catch, or a touchdown like Matei had at South Dakota State or against South Dakota State last season, that we're ecstatic about that, but we're moving on to the next play. We're ready to be in the run game or in the pass protection side of things where, you're kind of behind the scenes. And yet if you don't do that job correctly, bad things can happen. So, the way they approach it is with a selfless attitude. And I having said that, I truly believe this upcoming season, you're going to see a lot of really explosive things happen in the Mule stable. That's for sure.
One guy that when you talk about the Mules, I think is probably the definition of what a mule is Zach Larkin. Zach, of course, is a guy last year, catch up with Coach Mal before the season. He told me, he's like, Luke, I don't know if this year's going to be the year, but he's going to be an all-conference type tight end. He is that type of skill set and talent. For you, Tyler, you get to coach him each and every day, even though now virtually, not necessarily on the field. Where do you think Zach has improved the most this offseason and what he's meant to your group?
Well, first of all, he's devoted everything in his, physically and mentally to changing his body, getting bigger and stronger. He's put on almost, 12 pounds since the end of the season. He's been a complete warrior in the weight room. And he's led his aspiration and goals for the next upcoming season to be that all-conference and tight end, a big contributor, fuel his work ethic in the weight room, and to get that strength and size and to completely not only get bigger, but change his body is something that he's made huge improvements on. The one thing that has stayed consistent throughout, for Zach Larkin, even in this offseason, that's going to help him become a conference tight end is his reliability and his intelligence in the game of football. He's done everything in his power to go out of his way to watch more film, to ask more questions, and then to kind of fuel more conversation and question asking throughout the entire room. He's leading by example. He has always been that way. He's always been a lead by example guy, so that's always been a constant. But, he's improving every single day as well. And, you're hearing these young guys, Matei Thomas, Henry Woodcock, Tynan Williams, these guys, Jack Schmitz, a freshman, these guys are immediately glued on to Zach Larkin whenever Zach has anything to say. So he's improving with that, and those type of things are really going to make him a special player this year.
You kind of just did it, but when you go up and down your position group, even Ethan Cox to, as you mentioned, Jack, to Tynan, who Tynan would have been a huge part of the team a year ago, just unfortunately ran into some injury issues. Do you feel that out of your time here, I know Jaquette was such a big part in year one, but Do you think altogether that this is the deepest mule stable that you'll have at your disposal since you've been here?
Yeah, I would very much say that. I mean, as far as experience alone, I mean, Matei, obviously, Larkin's going into his last season. He's got a lot of experience playing that position. Matei's had a year of playing in this position. Henry's had 2 years off and on playing the position. Tynan started for the whole 2018 season, helped us win 7 games. Ethan Cox is in a lot of stuff, and Ethan Cox is in the game almost all the time for special teams as well. I mean, I have a room full of guys that are experienced. And to answer your question, yes, I'm extremely excited about the depth at that position right now. And at any given time at the Y tight end or H tight end position, I could play any one of those guys and they'd be ready to roll. They don't need to get ready because they're staying ready. And that's across the whole room, which is a really, really cool thing, something that gets me really excited as far as this upcoming season.
Really, Tyler, just kind of wrap up our conversation. I mentioned, of course, your recruiting coordinator during this time of COVID-19. How has that kind of made this position for you a little bit unique? And to this point, what are you really kind of allowed to do? What are you trying to do to continue to get those word out, or get the word out, I should say, of Sycamore football?
And we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier too. And if you were to follow our Sycamore recruiting page or football or any one of our coaching staff's pages on Twitter, you're seeing that we're constantly trying to find creative ways to, like you said, get our brand and get our program, the message out there. And I think, obviously, even if this wasn't happening and we were in person, we would still be on the phone recruiting, or social media is such a big part of recruiting, and interacting with these kids and getting to know them, or speaking with the high school coaches of the kids that we want to recruit, and getting a chance to reach across the country virtually and learn about more potential future Sycamores has been a really cool thing. So, I would say about 80% of our job is on the recruiting side of things definitely doesn't stop amongst, this craziness right now, because there's so many things online and social media, over the phone and all that kind of stuff that we can do to really put out our program and really put out that brand. I mean, yesterday we had a chance to speak with Coach McManus and talk about the weight room and the strength side of things. Just watching a 10-minute video now, you have a really, really good idea about what our lives are like for our players in the weight room, a place where wins and losses happen. So just using that as an example, you put something like that out there where we're reaching across the country and having a lot of people learn more about our program, which is a really exciting thing. And being the recruiting coordinator is a lot of fun, but it's easy because our entire staff has a huge part in the recruiting process. I mean, we're all, everyone, including Coach Mallory, obviously, we're always doing things as an entire staff to really put our brand out there and our message. And it's been a lot of fun, all things considered, to be able to still continue to do stuff like that.
Coach Funk, appreciate the time as always, buddy. Continue to stay safe and healthy during this time, to you, Nicole, and everybody. And we'll definitely look forward to getting back together whenever that is.
Same here. Stay safe, brother.